White people too fragile, right? And this is another wrinkle about identity politics. And it's all like if you want to get too short, too long, too short don't read type of thing. It's too long don't read is identity politics is merely based on assumptions, right? And one assumption is racist if it's not based on any, pattern recognition, not any result, right? If I say the NBA is majority black and therefore I assume that black people tend to be better at sports than other groups of people, other races of people, that's not a racist statement. That's just me observing something in reality. If you say the other way, hey, black people are naturally dumb because of X, Y reasons. And if I ask you, okay, what's your proof? And you don't have any proof, you can assume that person is being racist. But racism, it used to be, this is my problem with our culture today. Racism used to be it used to be something you did. Hey, I'm discriminating against you because of your identity. That was what racism was supposed to mean. Now we sit here, we change definitions. Oh, if you assume I'm a certain way because of the color of my skin, that makes you racist. Just like I assume if a woman is scantily dressed and I assume she's a prostitute, people want to say, oh, Kenny, that's sexist. But I'm like, yo, prostitutes tend to dress like that. Why not? Why wouldn't I think she wasn't one? If you wear a police uniform and I assume you're a policeman, is it really my fault? And this is where I think language, we have been too loose with our language as a culture. And I think we need to get more specific about what we mean when we say these terms, right? What is racism? What is that? You discriminate me based on the color of my skin, based on metrics and things that I cannot control. You have an unreasoned hatred towards me merely because of the color of my skin. Okay, those are valid definitions of racism. But racism isn't, hey bro, you play basketball? You probably pretty good at basketball, huh? And a black person go, oh my God, did you just assume that I was good at basketball because of my skin color? Racist. That's not racism. And this is the problem we have. A lot of people want to play victimhood. A lot of people want to play victim. And in this culture, we glorify victims more than we glorify heroes. We used to glorify people that, despite obstacles and disadvantages, they still became successful in life, right? Ex-slaves that died millionaires. Someone who been in slavery, who was a slave, got free, and before he died, he was a millionaire. We're supposed to be praising that. When we learn about black history, we're supposed to be learning about that. But what we glorify in our culture. Remember, what you glorify out in the open is what you incentivize the future to be. So when you put out this narrative, or you only want to show history when black people were slaves, when they were victims, when they were oppressed, people want to say, oh, how can I be the biggest victim? Because victimhood gets praise. Victimhood gets glorified. Victimhood gets recognition. This is why you got all these people in Gen Z trying to identify as everything other than a straight white male. Because you don't get recognition for being a straight white male. This is why you got white women out here saying, we don't want to date, we don't like white men on TikTok. You know how they go, oh, black dudes only, and then they go, as a representative of the black race, we do not want this woman. Like, joking around like that. Identity politics, man. We always talk about how diversity is our strength. We want diversity and inclusion. But it only seems to, diversity and inclusion seems to pick and choose who they want to include. Usually it's a white dude. And that's unfair. Because I know if it was the other shoe on the foot, I would want other people to speak up on the unfairness that would happen to me if society didn't like black males. But that's not what we're doing here. And then when the retribution comes and hit us, we want everyone else to stand up for us. But when it was hitting someone else, we didn't want to do nothing because it wasn't affecting us. That's the sad reality about identity politics. And I don't understand why people have this narrative about that it's a unifying thing. But I digress. Let's get into the video. Are white people too fragile? Let's get into it.
How would you categorize race relations between black and white people in the United States today?
From a media standpoint, division.
Welcome back for part 2 of the newest series, Black and White on the Gray Issues. Last time we took to the streets to see if relations between black and white Americans were actually as bad as legacy media would have you believe. And what do you know? The narrative couldn't be further from the truth. Turns out you can actually find some common ground and have great dialogues when you actually start talking with people. That being said, I'd be lying if I said it was entirely smooth sailing. If you talk to enough people, you will eventually find an outlier, and this was an outlier, which took place in our final interview of the day. Now, without spoiling too much, see if you can tell how this particular conversation went differently.
Or the reason
We
we
would
exist
still
in
be
the first
slaves
place.
if it was for you, baby.
Sorry. The black lady says, we will still be slaves if it was up to you. Did this lady not learn history? Does this lady not learn that, what, about 500,000 white people died in the Civil War to free the slaves? Did the black lady not know when they were voting to give black people the rights to be free, whatever, not a single black person voted for their own freedom? All of them were white people voting to release and give slaves rights and equal protection under the law, even though, democratic states end up not doing it. But they're the ones who took the first steps for the civil rights movement to take it forward. Did this lady not know that the historically black colleges that they're so proud of, half of the money was put up by white businessmen from the North? Did this black lady not know history where there were blacks that lived in the North that was never slaves? See, this is what I'm talking about, bro. Just based on her identity, she assumed she colored all white people. Oh, yeah. If it was all white people are bad, how is that not racism? Identity politics justifies racism. If you're part of the excluded group, usually a white person. Now Asians are starting to become this way because of education, because they do too well, right? If you're in a position of power, privilege, and success, people use identity politics to make you feel guilty about that. It is division. I agree. It is division.
All right, just for a second, it may be that I'm a little old-fashioned. That seems a little wild to me, but let me know in the comments below what you think. Did this woman just offer fair assessment or pure, unadulterated insanity? Let me ask you, where would you put, or how would you categorize race relations between black and white people in the United States today?
I think from a media standpoint, division.
Right.
I think that's where we are. I think that there is division. I do. I think there's definitely some microaggressions and things like that are apparent.
Bruh, did she just use microaggressions, bro? Oh, man. I'm going to pause this video a lot. Microaggression. What is that? I still don't know to this day what a microaggression is. For me, this is how I'll define a microaggression. A perceived slight against you. With no proof, no evidence, right? Let's say a lady had a bad day and I try to talk to her and she was like she gave me the silent treatment. I'm like, oh, she must not like black men. Oh, she must be a racist. I'm assuming all that. That's how I see microaggressions, bro. But hey, I'll let her finish talking.
But on my everyday interacting, I think it's an array of things. I think there's some positivity. There's some growth opportunities. I think I have within my circle. It's diverse.
Yeah.
And I love that it's diverse, but I also think that we're not having those conversations within my diverse community.
So when you say diverse, do you mean racially? Do you mean
Racially.
ideologically, politically?
Politically and racially.
Okay.
Yeah.
So here's why I call that a lie. Politically, they don't want no political diversity, right? If let's be real here. Like, if I mention my views, right, in a predominantly black area, college, whatever, people will shout me down. People will try to bully me. People will try to threaten physical violence against me merely because I don't believe the same thing they do. Identity politics pushes for conformity. It doesn't push for diversity. They only push for diversity if it benefits the oppressed group. But the minute the oppressed group is a majority, aka the NBA, right? You don't hear the NBA marching for affirmative action in the NBA. You don't hear them doing that. Why? Because 74% of the people that work in there is a minority, right? But God forbid, if the NBA was 74% white, affirmative action will come to you faster than you can say hello. But when it's the other way, no, we don't need diversity because it is diverse. How? Majority of it is black. How is that diverse? And that's why I show you identity politics don't respect racial groups as equals. It has a hierarchy. It has a class, right? Marxists should be ashamed of themselves with identity politics. Because essentially you're giving black people a privilege that you don't give white people. Because you assume white people have a privilege merely because of the way they were born. And not the outcomes that they get from their family, from their environment, from their community. And it's sad that schools, educations condition us to think in these lines, in this framework. But then when you call out in the open, like, hey, look, how is this fair? How is this about equality? How does this cure racism if you're doing this? That's a question we all should ask ourselves that. But I digress. Let's get back into the video.
So you have white, black, Republican, Democrat, and all in your circle of friends?
Yes, I have pretty much everything.
What would you say has kind of helped you? I think learning from different people helps you grow. What would you say has helped you grow more? Having people of different races in your circle of friends, or people of different ideologies, people from different walks of life?
I think walks of life.
Yeah.
I think you learn more. I think because I can meet another African-American person who's had a different upbringing than I do, and I'm learning what their struggle looks like versus my struggle because it's very different. Mm-hmm. I think it's really truly about being open. Yeah. Open to listening, open to learning, and having the conversations.
See, and this is my problem too. Like, and this is one example of how identity politics gets used as a shield. She talks about how she wants an open conversation, open this. Okay. If I was a white person, let's say I was a white person making the points that I'm making here, that, hey, black people are at the bottom, not because of the color of their skin, not because of systematic racism, not because of generational curses. It's merely because the community as a whole made bad decisions and therefore they got bad outcomes. They don't focus a lot on education. They don't invest money into education. They expect other groups of people, the taxpayers' dollars, to fund the education for their benefit, but they don't want to contribute their own money for their group's benefit, right? They expect everyone else to do it, but not them, right? And they decide to make decisions and outcomes that's detrimental to their group. Single motherhood is a big example of this. Single moms are the poorest demographic in America, regardless of race. Your community, the black community, you have 70% of your women that are single. No, sorry, I lied. 70% of your mothers are single. Out of all the racial groups, you have the largest percentage of single mothers in your community. Single moms are more likely to be in poverty than married couples. So if I make the assumption that, hey, the black community has low wealth, like wealth inequality, income gaps, merely because, hey, this group has a large percentage of single motherhoods. So that means a large percentage of them are in poverty. That's why black people tend to be poorer than other groups of people. It's a valid argument because I gave you step by step how I came to that conclusion, right? But because I'm a white person, remember this in my example, I'm pretending to be a white person. Because I had the wrong skin color and I said that, what we're gonna hear them say? Say it with me now. You're racist. Or, and here's the funny part. Here's the oxymoronic statement about these people. They'll use racism to call you racist. Oh, you're a white man. You're not supposed to be saying that. That's racist. Is what the guy said valid or not valid? It's valid, yes, but it came from a white person, so therefore it's not correct. That's racist. That's prejudice. You're discriminating his opinion based on the color of his skin, right? And this is my problem. It's a two-way street. Black people always get mad how they face racism and discrimination and all that stuff. And I always ask myself, are these people facing racism and discrimination because of the color of their skin or because of the behavior they displayed and they getting what they were pushing out? You was like, oh, you better not bring no white girl to my cookout, right? Like let's play the storyline here. Black mom tell her black son he better not bring no white girl back home. Okay, everyone's fine with that. White man tell white daughter don't bring a black boy home. Outrage will happen because the white man said the exact same thing a black lady will say to their kids, because they want to keep it in the race. Why we view one statement racist and the other one not racist? Because the person's black. Using racism to justify racism, justifying prejudice. Now, to me, I don't care. Look, like discrimination, it's okay on a personal level. Who you date, if you don't want to date black women, that's your right. That's a personal level. Freedom of association. But institutionally, that's wrong. I agree with the scale. Yeah, based on the scale, it's wrong. But personal discrimination is fine. If you don't want to date white girls, that's fine. You don't want to date black men, that's fine. If you want to discriminate against women, you don't date women, that's fine. We don't have a problem with that. But for some reason, if a white man opened his mouth and he said, I do not date black women, racist, we're supposed to cry about it. Because he's perceived to have privilege. He's perceived to have power. If you look at the most successful group in our country, it's Asian people, a minority group. But for some reason, we still think white people, white privilege. If this country was a country about white supremacy, white people will be at the top in every industry and every, it don't matter, academically, sports wise, we'll see them all over the place. But for some reason, the Asian person is able to show them out, beat them. How is it a white supremacist system if Asian people are doing so well in this country? White people are everywhere because they're the majority. It's not because they're white. It's because they're the majority. If we're in Africa and I see black people in every position of power, it's not because of racism. It's because they're the largest portion of the population. So the odds are in their favor that they will be represented at a large scale. Logic, simple, but they want to focus. But they want us to feel emotional because, and this is why I say black power relies on white guilt. If white people didn't feel guilty about being white, none of this ish they pulling will work. They call it this cry bullying, manipulative. And I think it's about time other groups of people start disregarding unfactual, unproven claims or accusations of racism because it hurt a minority group's feelings. I think if we can get past that, I think identity politics will be on its way out. But it takes courage. It takes guts for people to call it out. Because right now they have the power. They got people in institutions lending them their ear. But I think if we become like disinterested, don't care anymore, all this stuff will go away. Because they're rewarded because they see it works. That's why they keep pushing it.